people would always say to us, the second you stop trying, it's just going to happen. And we stopped doing IVF probably 2 months maybe before our wedding. And so it took a year, I think, for all of those hormones and chemicals to get out of my system. We were not trying whatsoever. I didn't even check my ovulation anymore. We decided to put it in God's hands. I thought it was just not happening. We were like accepting of it, and then God's plan.
So I told myself that I was no longer going to cover the topic of Kourtney Kardashian and her fertility misinformation because I didn't want to give it any more attention than it deserves. I could get over her telling people that a doctor told her to drink Travis Barker's semen to improve her fertility. And begrudgingly, I could even get past the overly negative viewpoints that she shared on egg freezing without the necessary context, like the fact that she only froze, I think it was like 7 or 8 eggs when she was in her late 30s. But I'm having a hard time getting over this most recent episode of the Kardashians, which many of you pointed me to. Her narrative here is just so offensive on so many different levels, so allow me to break it down. And at the risk of sounding like Jim Carrey from Ace Ventura, so just to give you a little bit of background, Kourtney's saying that she quit IVF treatment because it was not successful, and then they spent about a year trying on their own, and she was age 44. Now, what do we know about human reproduction? It is extremely inefficient, and that's even more inefficient with age. By the time you approach 45, the chance of getting pregnant from an ovulated egg without any intervention is around 1% or less. So by the time you're 44, the chance of an ovulated egg turning into a pregnancy is way less than 5%. Not to mention, the risk of miscarriage due to chromosomal errors is well over 60% at age 44. Now, I'm not saying that people can't get pregnant with their own eggs just from ovulating at age 44 or 45. It can definitely happen through sporadically ovulating a healthy egg, which is extremely rare. So to state it this way, that she just stopped trying and relaxed, it's really playing into all of the tropes that people who are actually struggling with infertility hate, because there is no evidence that when you stop trying and when you relax and stop feeling so stressed about it, that it's actually going to improve your fertility. She even takes it a step further and says that they stop tracking their ovulation. Well, that actually is kind of terrible indirect advice, because we know that it's so important to know when you're ovulating, and really there's only like 2 to 3 day window before ovulation where it makes sense to really try, where you have a decent chance of the sperm and the egg meeting. So suggesting that she just kind of threw it all out the window and finally relaxed and stopped stressing and even stopped timing her cycle, and then she got pregnant, it's kind of insinuating that that's what it took. And that's actually counterintuitive to what people should be doing if they're really making an active effort and trying to be as efficient as possible. But truthfully, the worst part was when she says, I needed the IVF drugs to get out of my system. That is insinuating that taking the medications to stimulate her ovaries and extract eggs at time of egg retrieval somehow rendered her infertile. And by stopping these medications and having this washout period, all of a sudden, miraculously, her fertility returned. Nothing could be further from the truth. There is no evidence of this. When you're taking the fertility meds or the injections, what you're actually injecting into your body is the same natural signal your pituitary gland sends to your ovaries to try to get all of the eggs to mature instead of just the one egg that you would normally mature and ovulate. As a double board certified OBGYN and fertility specialist that has helped so many women go through the process of stimulating their ovaries to extract their eggs, whether it's for egg freezing or IVF, I'm here to tell you that these medications that you're taking do not stay in your system. They're merely causing your ovaries to produce more estrogen for a very transient period of time. And really 1 to 2 weeks after the egg retrieval, all of those hormones have dropped to their baseline level and your cycle goes back to normal and there's no lingering effects from those drugs. So this is really a terrible piece of misinformation that probably instills a lot of fear in people that don't know a lot about this process, and that is really reprehensible. Now, Kourtney is not a fertility doctor, and it's okay for her to not know all the answers, but when you have such a large platform, you have to be responsible, and you can't just throw random statements out that can do a lot of harm. And then for the final cherry on top, just stating, you know what, it was God's plan. I think people don't realize how infuriating that statement is. I'm not knocking anyone's spiritual beliefs, but saying something is God's plan is very hurtful, especially to people that are still struggling and haven't gotten to their happy ending. Are they not worthy? Are they not part of God's plan? Do they not deserve their happy ending? And when people say it's God's plan as a way to try to comfort those in their lives that are trying to conceive or struggling with pregnancy loss, it tends to just add insult to injury. It just seems really dismissive and frankly lazy and not really addressing the problem at hand. And in talking to my patients, I've never heard anyone say that it's helpful to hear that. Whether Kourtney Kardashian is being forthcoming or not about how she actually got pregnant, and frankly, it truly is none of our business, I'm happy for her. I'm happy that she has had a successful outcome, and it sounds like there were some bumps along the road. All I would ask as a board certified fertility specialist out here trying to dispel myths and misconceptions is that she stop talking about fertility unless she's going to tell the whole story and fact check and make sure what she's saying is accurate.